Several experts have labeled this year's draft class as one of the weaker ones in recent memory, and the talk around league circles is that this is one of the weakest classes over the last 10 years. However, that doesn't mean that we can't expect some kind of fantasy contribution from first-year players, regardless if you're playing in a category or points league, or a season-long or a dynasty format. As it always happens, some first-year players will gain big roles early in their careers. Let's discuss which rookies will emerge as fantasy contributors ahead of the 2024-25 NBA season. Zachary Reischer, Atlanta Hawks. Reischer was the top pick in the 2024 NBA draft for a reason. He's an athletic player who can guard multiple positions and offers decent value on the offensive end of the floor, both as a slasher and as a shooting threat. However, he doesn't fall in the same category as Alex Sarr in terms of upside due to his fit with the Hawks and his playing style. There's no question that Reischer has enough talent to be a solid starter at the NBA level sooner rather than later, but it might take him a season or two to be relevant in fantasy. Aside from the fact that he's not known to be a stat-stuffing machine, it's worth noting that his fit with the Hawks is a bit complicated from a fantasy perspective. He'll open the year as the team's third-best scoring option in an absolute best-case scenario, sitting behind Trae Young and Jalen Johnson in the tanking order. Washington Wizards. Sarr wasn't the first pick in the draft, but there's a strong case to say he could be the rookie with the biggest upside. He'll likely open the season as a starter and on a Wizards team that could give him as many minutes as he can handle as a rookie. Sarr needs to improve his offensive game, but there's nothing that suggests that it won't be the case as the season progresses. At his best, Sarr could have double-double upside with a high field goal percentage and solid defensive numbers as a floor. His three-point shooting is a work in progress, but don't rule him out from trying his luck from deep. In a class that doesn't have many star-caliber players on paper, Sarr could start separating himself from the rest, at least from a fantasy perspective, in his first year in the NBA. Zach Edey, Memphis Grizzlies. Edey was an unstoppable player in college, which should explain why he enters the league as the two-time reigning Naismith Player of the Year. He's also one of the tallest and biggest players in the draft, standing at nearly 7'4" with a 7'10" wingspan and weighing 299 pounds. Opposing players will have a tough time trying to score against him, but there have been several doubts about whether his game can fully translate into the NBA. Edey might lack the mobility to defend big men at the NBA level, and his offensive game is not as developed as one would have hoped. However, he'll get fantasy stats as long as he stays on the court on a regular basis. If he opens the 2024-25 season as the Grizzlies' starting center, he could be a nightly double-double threat with excellent defensive numbers, particularly in the blocks department. His fantasy upside will depend on how the Grizzlies use him, but if he finds a steady role in the rotation, he could be a solid option in most fantasy formats. Dalton Knecht, Los Angeles Lakers. Knecht was a first-team AP All-American and SEC Player of the Year in 2023-24, averaging 21.7 points and 4.9 rebounds per game. He also shot 45.8% from the field and 39.7% from three-point range for Tennessee last season. Many talent evaluators believed he would be a lottery pick, but he fell to the 17th pick largely because he's 23 years old. However, that age and his advanced development could prove to be beneficial for the Lakers. Los Angeles needs reliable shooters who can be ready to contribute right away, and Knecht fits that mold almost to perfection. Even though he won't be a starter right away on a contending team, Knecht could benefit from being a scorer off the bench. While drafting Knecht in late rounds could be a stretch, he's a player worth keeping close tabs on, particularly in category-based leagues due to his above-average shooting ability. Yves Missi, New Orleans Pelicans. Finally, it's hard not to look at Missi and understand that he could be one of the most productive rookies in this class, at least from a fantasy perspective. Sure, Missi is still very raw on the offensive end of the court and might not have a lot of touches while playing alongside Brandon Ingram, if he stays in New Orleans, Zion Williamson, CJ McCollum and DeJounte Murray. But the Pelicans do not have another reliable option to start at center. Unless they decide to play Williamson at the 5, which would give opposing teams a significant advantage on the glass, or journeyman Daniel Theis, expect the Pelicans to give Missi a shot at winning the starting role as a rookie. If that's the case, he could be an option to deliver a high field goal percentage with ample rebounds and defensive stats, particularly blocks. His role on this team plays to his advantage. Missi's two-way upside could make him worthy of a late-round flyer, particularly in deeper leagues or dynasty formats.